How are you guys doing? Moshe received the Torah at Sinai and transmitted to Yeshua, Yeshua to the elders, and the elders to the prophets, and the prophets to the men of the great assembly. It said three things: be patient in the administration of justice, raise many disciples, and make a fence around the Torah. Shimon HaTzadik, no, Shimon the righteous, was one of the last men of the great assembly. He used to say, the world stands upon three things: the Torah, temple service, and the practice of acts of piety. Antigonus, a man of Soho received the oral Torah from Shimon the righteous. He used to say, do not be like servants who serve the master in expectation of receiving a reward, but be like servants who serve the master without the expectation of receiving a reward, and let the fear of heaven be upon you. And like the commentary in Pirkei Avot 1:3 will say, don't be like Antigonus's three students or two students that became heretics. And assume that because he said, be like servants who serve the master without expectation of a reward. They assumed that he meant that there is no reward. So what's the point of serving? So let's just go off and become the Sadducees and Sadducees. I've never heard of the Sadducees or whatever they're called. I can't remember. Like one of the students' name was Bathus. Until I read Pirkei Avot. I think most people have probably heard of the Sadducees. Or at least a lot more people than the other ones. Hopefully that I can make this a short stream, because I need to. I'm gonna try to keep on top of my health, so I should get to sleep before it gets too late. I've been learning the Rabbi Yaron Rubin Bitahom Bahashem series, because I figured I was having a crisis of bitachon, of confidence in God. I mean, not really, but at least not compared to where I where I have been, but just in respects to where every person ideally should be. One thing that's hard for me over the last year or so is as I finally started to realize where everything comes from, and that the people are just puppets, and no matter what it is that you're affected by people's actions, it's all ultimately you are the determining factor of how other people interact with you, or what kind of stuff that you have to deal with. But I've pretty much fully accepted that. Maybe not like as fully as it can be, like in way deep down inside, and in a way that's really hard to convey. Like a lot of times it's Latour talks about like the heart, or sometimes it's kind of, it's used a lot of times as like the to refer to the soul. But I'm not sure. There's probably sometimes where it's not that. Like it's easy to take a concept into your mind and accept it, like, that's the way things are. But it's hard to really internalize it to where you live by it. Like you can know everything is it's just like absolutely nothing is there. I mean, even science is now like conceptualizing that the only real stuff in the entire universe is just like a tablespoon of dust, and the only reason anything has any any perception of substance is like is movement and space between everything. What if God took all the animation away, took all his his creation out of the creation? It would just be you know, I don't know if it would be a tablespoon, but it wouldn't be a whole lot of stuff. So it's easy to like know that in your mind, but it's hard to fly off into the sunset, or to put your arm through a wall, or to walk through it, because the wall will stop you unless you unless you know 100% that it's not even there. But the one thing I've had troubles with, as far as like fears go, is like fears for other people, and like what their actions will bring them. I mean, a lot of it I certainly don't want to deal with. If it goes bad, like, like history proves, if people don't do tshuva, eventually things really fall apart. But the the stuff I was going through, or am going through, I guess, still don't feel as Johnny on the spot as I did about a month ago. That is for sure. But I, I was thinking about the decree on I can't remember. I think it's Rosh Hashanah, and then it's sealed on Yom Kippur. But my memory's not that great. But just like a person gets, their parnasah, their money, as well as their fate, decided on. I'm gonna have to look it up. Sorry, I just can't go. Okay, it's Rosh Hashanah and then sealed on Yom Kippur. So just like a person's fate and their income is decided and then sealed 10 days later on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Also, the amount of suffering a person gets. Because everyone has to get a certain amount because it's good for us. Even though most people don't see it like that. That's certainly hard to internalize that when you're going through it in the moment. It's definitely a lot easier after you learn a little bit of Torah and you start doing teshuvah. But I was thinking about the suffering that I was going through, and I was wondering if I should have spent a couple more or a lot more hours on the phone and the government websites trying to figure out some tax garbage that I thought I did my effort on. I don't know. That's one thing is if a person tries to like weasel out of the suffering that they're supposed to get, like in one way or another, it's going to come no matter what. So if you like hang up on the tax helpline or whatever because it's annoying and you're sick of listening to some woman's voice on the phone with a recorded message and some horrible music over and over again. Just know that, or whatever, whatever kind of tolerable suffering. Just know that if you try to weasel out of it, you're probably building something a lot less savory further down the line. Everyone gets suffering though. The only difference in people's suffering is what it goes towards. That's why it's best to do tshuva as soon as possible, like right in this moment. Just, pretty much everyone has a whole heaping helping of a lot of stuff that they know they did wrong, no matter how much Torah that they know. And so pretty much everyone can just break down and beg for forgiveness. First, you got to say you're sorry first. You gotta be, or at least the sages say that regret is really only the third step, because a person truly can't be sorry until they stop the sin and until they've built a fence around the sin prevent them from doing it again. At least for sins that are like habitual offenses. Because a person can't really have any regret until they have like distance between themselves and the sin. Otherwise, they're too close and they're still mired in the filth, so they don't smell the stench. They're still filthy. They're still filthy from the sewer, so they don't. It's on, the stench is on them, so they don't smell. The stench that they're in. It's only after some time away from it that the soul starts to get cleaned up a little bit and is not so just absolutely filthy and disgusting. Only then can a person start to smell the stench on other people or in other places that they used to frequent. One thing I was thinking about that seemed really important to hammer home about doing tshuva and having your suffering go to something. That's, if a person doesn't do tshuva, all the suffering is just to try to get you to wake up and get to that point. And so really, other than trying to save your life, it doesn't, it doesn't account for anything other than just getting you to the door. Once you walk through the door, once you start doing tshuva, then all that suffering goes towards time off in Genom. So it's best for a person to do tshuva as soon as they possibly can, so they can, put all those credits in an account that's gonna do something rather than just throwing them in the trash. And what a person does that, if you have the ability, it's best to go full force, as strong as you possibly can, to get as much of the hard stuff out of the way, because it's only easy for a little while. Eventually gets harder and harder and harder. I mean, not permanently, but there are tests and tests and tests and tests. But you just have to, you got to learn, you got to pray, you got to beg God to help you out, give you the strength, show you where and how to do what you need to do tshuva and to get closer to Him, and give you the strength to follow through with it and not put it off, and not make excuses, and to grant you the strength to overpower the Yetzer Hara, so you can choose life and live. The evil inclination, for anyone that doesn't know, that's what the Yetzer Hara is, aka Satan. the Bitahom Hashem series is definitely really good. One thing that kind of sucks about the chronic stress is when it gets really bad. At least what science says, and my personal experiences, is cognitive function kind of goes out the window. So things like critical thinking and memory recall aren't the greatest. But thank God I took notes. Hey Vern, how are you doing? Been a long while. One of the things that Rabbi Rubin says is critically important for anyone that doesn't have a regular place that they, doesn't have a rabbi or doesn't have a dedicated place that they learn Torah from is before you do anything. The most critical thing is to just beg God that wherever you will go will be a place that is going to have the truth, because there is just so much absolute garbage and lies out there, and just about every flavor of the rainbow. And it's all hidden so well. All the lies have some big heaping helping of truth in there, so people will swallow it and go to hell. There's only one truth, only one source of the truth. That's the Torah. But the problem with that is that so many people claim to be that truth, or a face of it. But there's only one way that the Torah is a face of, that is the truth. Although, it is said, though, there are 70 faces to the Torah. It doesn't mean there are 70 different truths. It just means that there are 70 different facets. So many people take like one line out of either a verse or a passage or a chapter or a book, and they totally distort it, because they really, one is they aren't looking for the truth. They're just looking for something that will validate the way that they already are, something that doesn't obligate them to do anything hard. And that is absolutely not the truth. as well. While the Torah is certainly good, really doing what it says and really trying to be close to God is definitely not easy at all. And it's certainly not a one-liner like the New Testament believers and many other people, or a free for all of whatever you feel is just just fine. Everything's groovy, bro. Or the people that try to be more merciful than God and end up just becoming absolute heretics. And if anyone really thinks about the garbage that they spew out of their mouth for more than a half a second to validate their own delusions and desires, they realize the ramifications of their delusions when it's when it's like when a person reads the Torah and all the things in it, it just makes for some just ridiculous nonsense. Either stuff that makes absolutely when a person reads the Torah and then takes some people's perspective of it, it either makes absolutely no sense or it makes a person, it would make a person think that God is some some hideous overlord, or torturous angry God, which is certainly not the case. Because there has to be reward and punishment. I mean, every even the failed justice of this world by people, at least most of them with any kind of brain in their head would not say that there would be any justice if there was just reward, or if there was just punishment. There has to be both. And by looking at the creation, even the most logically minded person can see that there are laws that run everything. There are laws that the creation has to abide by. One thing that was was hard for me to swallow. Now it's really hard for most people to even do anything other than just run away and be revolted, or not want anything to do with the Torah when they hear about if you really want to follow God's will, you have to submit. You have to find a rabbi and then submit to his authority, and you have to submit to the rulings of the sages. Especially with the horrible ideologies of most religions or sects of religions. That's that's one thing I really dislike is when people call observing the Torah a religion, or like Judaism. I mean, it's a common, easily relatable thing that people understand, but most of it's not accurate in what people think, because most of the people that they think of as religious, or either they just don't know. There's like some people that wear black and white and wear weird hats, or they or there are people that wear are liberals that wear even smaller hats, and do less than nice things. I know it's hard to accept a lot of this stuff, especially if you have any of the filth of falseanity draped over your soul or your brain, or both. But that's one thing about you know about how God made things, and He gives people free choice. Is there is all the evidence that any person will ever need to prove that it's true. Not just that the Torah is true and that God is true, but that the Masoret, what people call rabbinical Judaism, is true. Because there's no other way. The Torah is incomplete without the oral Torah. And there would be no Torah whatsoever if it wasn't for the rabbis. Because if they wouldn't have built the fence, the Torah would have been burned long ago, and the world would have ceased to exist because it would no longer have a purpose. But there's also plenty of evidence for anyone that's not looking for the truth. Plenty of evidence for them to find and say, "See, I told you." But the really difficult thing is even for those that are actually looking for the truth, and once they accept the truth and the conclusion, the really hard thing is the doubt never goes away. Not, at least not 100%, that I'm aware of anyway. there's always the Yesera trying to drag a person back into hell. And the character traits of Amalek to cut off the hindmost. Good evening, Joshua Wynn. I mean, I guess this is kind of late, but historically for nighttime streams, this isn't that late for me. I should be getting to sleep soon though, because my stress level was just starting to get to a mostly manageable level the last few days. Most of that, I think, was just lots of shearing, lots of lectures, and trying to eat a large amount of quality food, and or at least somewhat quality food, and a lot of calories and a lot of sleep. Sleep is good. And it's so hard for me to try to differentiate certain things, like where the line is, where it crosses the line from God's will to my own desires for a lot of things. I was, I really don't want to sleep a lot. I really don't want to, have to take. The only reason I really enjoy eating is, I mean, I like the physical, to like eat food. It's nice to eat good food, especially if it's real. But the only like real benefit is it's like a time to be close to God. I can say a blessing and feel satiated, and then say another blessing, and then it's back to work. Work. The last couple weeks, I feel like I haven't been getting enough. There's definitely not as much work as I want to be doing done. But I guess since my my job that I've taken upon myself lately is to try to just serve God. So part of that is my own health, and watching shearing, watching lectures to get enough Torah is a critical part for me to just function. Sort of I get below that, I hope you guys can make yourself a rabbi. And just that cannot be me. Something went wrong. How much did that cut out? I guess the Yetzirah didn't like that. If anyone's still here anyway, they'll comment. I'm not sure if I'm gonna watch, all the series because there's I mean, it's good for everyone to know some of it. Whether they're uh, young or old or single or married or with a for the goyim, we don't have to be married. Just don't live like an animal. But there's certain stuff that once it goes too far or it gets too descriptive, you know, for a single man, it's not ideal to hear certain things just because it's too descriptive, I guess, or too tempting. Okay, 2 minutes. So that was probably pretty much all of what you know. Did you hear about the Jewish intimacy series? It's something that is it's for Jews, but it's for everyone. Anyone that wants to have decent kids. Because people do horrible stuff before and during the act of intimacy that to have a child. And while there's reasons like outside of the parents control for a lot of the problems that kids have, like being deaf or mute or mentally handicapped or deformed. Like God's accounting is perfect, so there's no party involved that doesn't deserve whatever it is. So it's like the the soul of the kid has something that they have to atone for or rectify, and sometimes it's not always you know as bad as people would think. Sometimes it's like the last step before they have a perfect soul. But because God's accounting is perfect, the parents' actions of how the kid was conceived play the biggest role in why they were, why the kid came to the world the way that they did. Like when they're angry, or when they get drunk, or when they think of another person when they're intimate, or when they hate each other, or when they're separated or divorced, but they still for some insane reason are together, and then a kid comes out of it. I'm still not sure if a goy could ever be holy. I know one thing, they certainly can't be holy like a Jew can be, but if if uh, if a goy learns Torah and applies everything that you know they can and should, can certainly be very close to God and have all kinds of amazing blessings in their life. And truly live now and forever. I mean, it's not an obligation. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that a goy or anyone can do. There's certain things that Jews are obligated to do, like that the goyim can or can't can choose not to do. There's some things we're forbidden from doing, unless we just don't want to rebel against God and don't care, no matter what words or thoughts are in our head. We don't do as Torah says. That's what we're doing. But there's some extra stuff that it's for the benefit for everyone involved. The extra effort really is really not that much. And it's very, very worthwhile. And for the goyim, that's something as simple as just saying a blessing before eating food. Although if not that I am, but if I was if I was to make a ruling on like the Noahide observance of the laws, since it's not just the 7 laws, it's also like the a lot of the character traits and just general decent behavior, like honoring your parents and being grateful and not being arrogant. I think I would probably rule that we are obligated to make blessings, because by not doing so, we are being ungrateful. And even more so than that, the not making a blessing is like it's basically like being an idol worshiper, because if you don't make a blessing before you eat or you drink something, you it's like it's like not acknowledging God that made everything and gives it to you. I mean, really, really, we should say a blessing for air. because without we wouldn't live. But it's probably sufficient just to say it once in the morning when you wake up. Because it'd be hard to get anything else done if we had to say a blessing before every time we took a breath. God's not unreasonable. But it's also a trick of the Yetzer Hara of Satan to get people to try to be more righteous than they need to be or they should, and to get them to inadvertently commit sins and or destroy themselves in the process by losing their mind, trying to be so strict in their observance. There's definitely a fine line a lot of times. Okay, it's getting late. I need to get to bed. Sleep is good. Maybe next time we can talk about wants versus needs. I've been thinking about that for a while. I wanna keep talking about God and how amazing and merciful He is. But I need to sleep. I hope we can all make ourselves a rabbi. I hope God grants us the wisdom and the guidance to make ourselves a rabbi and the strength. I hope we can humble ourselves to accept what is good for us. God, please grant us all the strength to overpower Yetzer Hara, to uproot and blot out the name of Amalek within our own hearts, once and for all, please, forever and ever, in our own hearts and in this world, in all the worlds. Please blot out their name and their memory. Please help us all to do tshuva. Please have mercy on your children. Not what people think is mercy, but real mercy, whatever that is. But Please help us all to do whatever we can so that as many people can do tshuva before the final judgment.